one of the kings of ancient Egypt and the founder of the 18th dynasty. He was a member of the royal family of Thebes, the son of King Sknen-Ra and the brother of the last king of the 17th dynasty, King Ahmose. During the reign of his father or grandfather, Thebes rebelled against the Hyksos, the rulers of Lower Egypt. When he was 7 years old his father was killed, and at about 10 when his brother died of unknown causes. He did not rule. Only for 3 years. Ahmose I assumed the throne after the death of his brother, and after his accession he became known as Neb-Pet-Re, Lord of Power Ra. During his reign, he ended the invasion of the Hyksos and expelled them from the Delta region, and Thebes regained its sovereignty over all parts of Egypt and its territories previously subject to it from Nubia and Canaan. He reorganized the country's administration, opened new quarries, mines, and trade routes, and began massive construction projects of a kind that had not been carried out since that time of the Middle Kingdom. Ahmose's reign laid the foundations for the era of the New Kingdom, under which the Egyptian state reached its peak. Ahmose descended from the 17th dynasty in Thebes. His grandfather, Sknen-Ra and his grandmother, Tt-Sheri, had more than 12 children, including Sknen-Ra and Iahotep. The brother and sister married according to the traditions of the queens in ancient Egypt, and they had Ahmose I, Ahmose, and many females. Ahmose followed his father's traditions, married several of his sisters, and made his sister, Ahmose Nefertari, his main wife. They had many children, including the females, Ahmose Mertamun, and Ahmose Setamun, and the males, c. Amun, Amenhotep I, Ahmose Ankh, and Ra-Muse, and they may also be the father of Mutenfert, who married Thutmose I. It seems that Ahmose Ankh was the crown prince of Ahmose I, but he died between the years 17 and 22 of Ahmose's reign. Ahmose I followed in power by his eldest surviving son, Amenhotep I. There was no clear dividing line between the 17th dynasty and the 18th dynasty. The chronicler Manetho wrote later. During the Ptolemaic era, considering the final expulsion of the Hyksos. After nearly a century of their presence, the restoration of Egyptian rule over the entire country was an event significant enough to warrant the beginning of a new dynasty. King Saknen-Ra was the first to attack the Hyksos to fight them in their exodus from Egypt and was killed in one of his battles with the Hyksos. Then his son Ahmose continued the war until he purified Upper Egypt from the Hyksos. Then Ahmose expelled the Hyksos outside the country. Ahmose ran with his armies when he was about 19 years old and used some modern weapons such as war wheels. And joined the army many of the people of Thebes, and he and his armies went to Waris, currently San-al-Hajar, the capital of the Hyksos, and defeated them there, then pursued them to Palestine and besieged them in the fortress of Sherahan, and they were reunited there until they surrendered. And did not the Hyksos appear later in history? This battle was around 1580 BC. Bronze dagger of Ahmose I. King Ahmose developed the Egyptian army, and he was the first to enter it with war chariots, which was used by the Hyksos. Which is the reason for the Hyksos' victory over Egypt. He was drawn by horses, and developed weapons as well, using arrows equipped with an iron piece on the arrows. Then he began to fight the Hyksos, starting from Upper Egypt and rallying around him the people, so he trained them efficiently until they became strong and skilled warriors. He continued to fight the Hyksos from Upper Egypt until he reached the then capital of Egypt, which the Hyksos set up next to the current city of Zabazig. East is safe from them and their attacks. After eliminating them after expelling the Hyksos, Ahmose arrived with his army to the country of Phoenicia, and attacked Nubia to recover it again to the kingdom of Egypt, whose borders reached south to the Second Cataract, and depicted Ahmose's campaigns in the tomb of two of his soldiers, Ahmose bin Abana and Ahmose bin Nekbet. After Ahmose finished his wars to expel the enemies and secure the borders of Egypt, he directed his attention to the internal affairs that were dilapidated during the period of the Hyksos occupation, so he reformed the tax system, reopened the trade routes. He also rebuilt the temples that were destroyed and took Thebes as his capital, and Amun was the official deity of his time. Ahmose's rule lasted for a quarter of a century, and he died at the age of almost 35 years. After Ahmose expelled the Hyksos from Egypt, he returned to the country in 1571 and headed for internal reform, which made historians count him as the founder of the modern state. It is believed that Ahmose has two tombs, one in Abydos, and it consists of a sloped temple, a funerary cemetery, and the remains of a pyramid discovered in 1899. It was known that his pyramid was discovered in 1902, a pyramid temple, and the other was in Thebes, and it was looted by looters. His mummy was discovered in 1881 in the cache of Deir el-Bahari with the mummies of some of the kings of the 18th, 19th and 21st dynasties, and his mummy was identified on June 9, 1886 by Gaston Maspero, and the length of the mummy was 1.63 centimeters and it had a relatively small face compared to the size of the chest.